Hi, everyone. We are so excited for this conversation today, specifically for military homeschool families. Thanks for joining us. This is our second military Facebook Live. My name is Natalie Mack, and I am a high school consultant and military outreach coordinator for HSLDA. I'm also a Navy chaplain's wife and homeschooled five of my own kids. Four have graduated and gone on to college, woo, and graduate school. And I have a current ninth grader. Joining me for this discussion today is my friend Heather Everett. Heather Everett is described by herself as a literature lover and history treasure hunter. So we bonded immediately with that.
Oh, yeah.
She's going into her eighth year as a career homeschooler of five incredible kids. So we have that in common, that number five kids: 13, 11, 9, 3, and 3. Through her husband's Army journey, God has taken them around the world and back again, weaving a grand curiosity and passion for learning deep into the heartbeat of their family. Heather's side gig, as she describes it, is as an instructional designer, gives her an additional outlet for this enthusiasm, much to her kids' relief. We understand that. When our passions, our kids are like, yes, yes, definitely do something else, mom. New to New to Hampton Roads and transitioning out of military life, the seven cities are the place the Everetts have chosen to put down roots in their community and embrace as their forever home. So, to all my fellow military homeschooling parents joining us on Facebook, we're so glad that you are here. Will you let us know in the comments where you're joining from and any successful tips that you want to share? Also, be sure to put any questions in those comments for Heather and I, and we'll save a little bit of time at the end to go over those questions. Heather and I actually met on Facebook, which seems to be pretty common now, right? So we connected when I asked on another homeschooling group if there are any military homeschooling, any military homeschoolers. As we began to chat more and more, we realized that we had a lot in common. And I really appreciated her perspective on how she has successfully navigated the military homeschooling waters. We know that isn't an easy accomplishment. We do the best we can, but military life is often a challenge as well as a blessing. So I'm excited to allow her the opportunity to share all of these fabulous tips. And it's going to be a discussion between Heather and myself. And we're going to share these ideas with you. But like I mentioned, please share some tips and ideas that you have. And any questions, share those in the comments. And I'm going to go ahead and give Heather an opportunity just to say a little bit about herself as well.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you so much for inviting me to have this conversation with you today. When I saw it went out as an interview, I said, oh, that might be a little generous. I feel like it's more of a conversation, right? We're going to share
Yes,
some
it is.
thoughts.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, my husband and I have been married for 16 years, and that has been throughout his entire active duty time. Prior to that, he had time in service with the National Guard as well. And so the homeschooling has really been a huge blessing to our family in the many moves that we've had to make, the many extended times that he's been away. It's truly just been a lifestyle that we can't imagine at this point living without. And so it's made it so much easier in so many aspects of life, for sure.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I totally agree with you. It's been one of the best decisions for our family as well. And like I've always said it hasn't always been easy, but it has been totally worth it. And our family has been blessed with the travel, venturing into new communities. Our kids really know how to go into a community and find common ground and make it a home as best they can. And so from West Coast to East Coast and overseas and all around the world, right? Homeschooling has allowed us to make history come alive as well. And that's one of the things, you're a history lover, and we have that in common. Literature alive, right? Going to some of the places where the authors lived and called home. So it's also allowed us the ability to take time off from our books and see the world with whatever free time that that my husband and dad was free and not deployed. So those are rare times, those are special times, and as we know, we make the best of those particular times. So we're going to go ahead and just get started with our discussion. You all, and again, put any comments and questions in the comments. So Heather had made a statement. She made a couple of statements that really resonated with me, and that's what drew me in to realize she would be excellent to share those with the larger audience. And so I know you all will be blessed by our discussion today. So she said, homeschooling equals the stability and flexibility to fully support the active member's career and prioritize family life. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because I totally agree with that. What are some thoughts you have about that, Heather?
Yeah, so I don't know if you always knew from the beginning that you wanted to homeschool your kids, but I did not. I was
Yes, I
I
did
was
not.
one of those. Yes, I was one of those who was like, I will not homeschool in a box. I will not homeschool with a fox. Like that was
You
me
know,
from
homeschool
the door.
anywhere, right?
Yes, and at the time that we started homeschooling, we were living actually elsewhere in Virginia, and I'd recently made some friends who were homeschooling, and our kids were all getting ready to go to kindergarten, and I was struggling with the kindergarten decision, having a summer birthday little boy. I'm sure a lot of people
Right.
can relate to that, right?
Yes.
So he
Yes.
went on to public school, and he had a great first year. I always tell people, he had a great teacher. He went to a great school. Everything was wonderful. But I realized as the year wore on that I wanted something different for his education.
Okay.
And I wanted something different for our family
Mhm.
and
Right.
the rhythm of our days. And so at the time, my husband was actually overseas and we were stateside. And so we had the long distance conversation about whether
Yeah.
or not we should start homeschooling. And it was kind of comical because he would tell you that he was like, oh, sure, she'll try it and then she'll just let it go. We'll just,
Yeah, sure.
we're
This is something new. It's a fad, right?
right. And so we started in part because he was going to be coming home from his overseas assignment in the middle of our oldest son's first grade year. And I thought, oh, for so many reasons, I would rather not have to have him switch schools. I would rather not have to have my husband's return home constrained by the requirements of school. I would rather
Right.
not have our impending PCS that was to come immediately after.
Of course,
him getting
immediately
home.
after, right?
Right. I mean, immediately.
Right.
Have that be hampered by requirements of where our son had to be, by law
Of course.
or elsewhere, and so
Right.
we decided to give it a shot in first grade. So we kind of, like a lot of people, we fell into homeschooling, but then we fell in love with it too. And
Yes.
so,
Oh,
yes. And so when it comes to the stability and the flexibility, that's the flexibility piece, right? The stability is for us that across all these years that we've been homeschooling, really our family life is the thing that remains constant. And so, while homeschooling has allowed us to have that flexibility, it also allows us to prioritize the rhythms of our family life and the big happenings in our lives, as what determines the rhythm of quote unquote school.
Exactly. And that's such a blessing. And the thing of, I think that, because we are military and, we're talking about that on this military Facebook Live, you know, military life has so many ups and downs and
Mhm.
transitions and changes. And like you mentioned, your husband, you made this decision and having communications with him while he was deployed overseas. And so then immediately after he returns home is this PCS. And so there's constant change, constant things going on. And to have that ability, like you said, to say, okay, dad's coming back, and I don't want to have my student get to school and deal with any of that. actually, I want to be able to celebrate and we all have time as a family and not be scattered trying to, meet another, organization's, for lack of a better word, schedule. And
Right.
so, yeah, it just makes a lot of sense. And maybe it makes sense to me because we've been doing it so long. But I think in general, most military homeschoolers feel like this is one of the big things. This is one of the things about make how successful it can be for us as military homeschoolers is that this allows us to breathe a little bit and allows us to spend that quality family time important moments in our family's life. And so totally,
Absolutely.
totally agree with
Absolutely.
everything you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, we ended up spending 3 weeks, going across the country, at that particular time, and I was sold because I saw all kinds of history, and
Yeah.
you don't want to get me started on history.
I know that'll be another conversation because
Yeah,
you and I probably
yeah,
would just
yeah.
diverge. We've done, and but that again, it's military life is, the thought that is different from other homeschoolers in that, I mean, other homeschoolers can move, of course, we know that.
Oh yeah.
But for military, we're constantly moving. And so we can take history, like I said, with us being overseas in southern Italy, history came alive, but it comes alive here in the US, cross country, right? Relocations, what we call PCSing. And for those who are not military, primary, permanent change of station, right? And so,
Hmm.
and I mentioned that someone said PC, what is PCS, right? And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of acronyms, but when we're doing that cross country travel, we can actually get to see so much, and history can be important as we make stops along the way. So that is so awesome. I'm going to transition to another awesome statement. You were talking about that to be able to embrace the opportunity, right, to have family and the rhythm of home life, which we've pretty much kind of talked about a little bit about that. But the bigger thing is how you give your homeschool to God. Now, I know not everyone watching may be of the same faith, um, but I do appreciate and love that because for me, that has been absolutely true. Is that I feel that this is a calling God has blessed me with. And so
Hmm.
your statement about giving your homeschool to God, let's talk a little bit about that for our viewers.
Oh yeah.
I
It
know,
really
I know.
it's the foundation of everything.
Yes.
And anything that we talk about with homeschooling for us as a family, that foundation is essential to it. And so,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, how our lives as Christ followers are expressed through our homeschool experience
Yes.
is really what we're talking about here, right? So
Yes.
so in part, well, one should back up. Homeschooling, like I said, is not something that I ever thought I would do. And so
Right.
when I jumped into it, or when we jumped into it and fell in love with it, my husband was like, "This can only be from the Lord because I know
Yeah.
otherwise there's nothing happening right now."
Right, right. If it was just me, I'd
Yeah,
be gone, right?
right. So there was that. There was that. But
Yes.
even beyond that, just in the ways that we are able to be flexible in our day-to-day life because of the call that we have on our lives to be available to serve in our communities, to be available to serve within our churches, just to be an and to shine a light wherever we are. And so giving our homeschool to God in part has to do with the flexibility of allowing for those shifts in our days and our expectations and our routine. And
Mhm.
also I think has to do with how that translates into the additional flexibility that it prepares our hearts to be
Yeah.
able to accept the things that come in unexpectedly because of military life. And so it
Exactly.
creates a level of resiliency to be able to give your homeschool to God and say, okay, these are my plans. This is what I'm hoping for. This is the curriculum that I'm hoping to
Mhm.
complete. This is
Right.
what I expect that this week is going to look like, but
Exactly.
your will be done, not mine.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it gives us and I'm saying us because you and I resonate totally with this.
Oh yeah.
It gives us that peace of mind that we are on the right course, that we're on the right
Hmm.
track. And like you said, that God sends opportunities that may feel like, oh, it's taking us off track or we aren't accomplishing all that we have on the schedule for that day.
Oh yeah.
But we have a peace of mind that that's where we're supposed to be. That's what we're supposed to be involved in. And our kids can actually see faith lived out in a
Right.
real way, um, and a full day too, because they are with us in a different in such a the full day actually, and not
Mhm.
away at a traditional school. And so we have that opportunity too to use our homeschool to share our faith with our kids and to show them how important it is to serve and to give into our community, and how we can be such a blessing. And so I think for our kids, it's raised them to be service minded and to be other people minded, and
Mhm.
to give all peoples an opportunity to interact and to relate and to for the spirit of that person to be what they are assessing and nothing else. And so I believe and see such a blessing with that, and how God has grown me as well, right? In so many ways, um, in my shortcomings, and trusting Him to grow me in a real personal development kind of way. And so, um, yeah, we can go on and on about that whole piece, right? About giving our homeschool to God and just all the blessings and benefits and that we see has come out of that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And it's we can use the pretty words like it's authentic and it's vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
But in that, quite often that means it's also messy and sometimes it's not easy, right? You know,
Right.
it's all a
Right.
journey, right? You know, so the
Right.
kids are here with me, you know, in the hard moments and in the easy moments, right? You know,
Yes.
and
Exactly.
so much of our growth together as a family and our growth and their growth and my growth really in authentic faith and relationship with Christ has to do with
Yes.
being able to experience life together in that way.
Yes.
There is no hiding how mom
There's
is
no
feeling.
I
And
know.
mom is not always patient. I try.
Right. Exactly.
Right? I'm
And
praying for those fruits of the spirit, but
hey, hey, and they say don't pray for patience, so I kind of stopped praying for that. But
yes,
but
yes.
I will say that yeah, it's just amazing how we can actually our kids can learn our moods and ups and
Mhm.
downs and what's going on, and they too don't have that frazzled feeling of I have to get this done. I have to get this done. They can look at something and go, "Oh, this has greater value for us right now."
Right.
And they trust me because they not because I'm perfect, because I know, in my opinion, none of us are and can be, right? Only
Mhm.
perfect was is Christ. So, but
Right.
they trust me to go to the Father they trust me to make the best decisions knowing I've prayed about it, knowing that I'm not perfect and that we're gonna work things out together as a family. And so yeah. So anyway, we like I
Sure.
said, we probably could do another Facebook Live just on this. And it is such a valuable topic. Maybe we should. So I might be drawing you back in again, Heather. Come on back. So, oh God. So, okay, let's move on to talking about keeping open communication with your husband. Okay. So, whenever the service member is
Yeah.
off, you mentioned, and whenever possible, be off school. And so, those who are, and I hope I don't step on any toes. I'm speaking from 21 years of homeschooling. Those who are type A, it's okay to be off school when husband is home, okay? Especially for those of military. We know how precious that time is. My husband is a chaplain's always on call. So I'm like, okay, like, can you put that other phone down, that
Mhm.
chaplain phone down? So family time is
Mhm.
precious, right? So you said that there was a month that you all took off for redeployment, right? The 3-week cross country drive. or all the 4 days. We love 4 days. When you have four
Yeah.
days, and our non-military may not know what 4 days are, but we do get 4 day weekends sometime, you all. So we're excited about that. But you all took those off and from school as well. Let's talk a little bit about that open communication with the husband.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been some learning between the two of us, as we grow as a homeschooling family, and he, remember I said, started out not quite 100% on board, and now he's 100% an advocate and helping me when I am feeling discouraged, and
Yes.
and the journey to get there, has been very involved, right? And one of the things that we did, as a family, was figure out what our likes and dislikes are. So for us, for our
Mhm.
family, my husband worked really, really long hours on active duty, and he was really tired on the weekend. But me,
Yeah.
as a history lover, I wanted to go and I wanted to experience the area where we lived, right?
Yes.
But on the
Yes.
weekend, that wasn't his preference most times. Now, there's families where that's different, but that's how it was for
Right.
ours, right? And
Right.
so the kids and I would go and get those travel bugs out and go and explore and then have space to have that family time on the weekend, And so
Right.
that was one of the
Exactly.
things we did with the 4 days for sure.
That is so
And
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, and just keeping that open and honest communication around expectations and hopes and dreams
Yes.
for the kids and for our homeschool and for our family. It's just
Right.
navigating life together and making
Right.
sure that what we're doing lines up with what he, as the leader of our house, is
Yes.
expecting and hoping for, the future of our family as well.
Exactly, exactly. Definitely including him in and understanding that schedule and how hard our military spouses work. And,
Right.
um, you know, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Like I mentioned with my husband as a chaplain, it was weekends were again when I would want to do most of the family activities, and but for him, especially when he was the times when he had responsibilities to preach at the base chapel,
Right.
Saturday
Right.
was preparatory time. And Sunday was Sunday, right? And he often would have to, preach and lead two services at the main chapel, and then of
Mhm.
course afterwards the social hour and fellowship, and then it and when and then there was like a, I forgot what it was called. It was a few years ago. There was like a ministry with young sailors and Marines afterwards in the evening on some Sunday nights. And so my plans and what I wanted, I quickly had to figure out, just like you mentioned, is that okay, let's
Right.
take advantage of some other times to get out and explore.
Right.
And we did
Right.
that as well. And so I hear you and I appreciate that. And that's so important to be able to do that. So that's awesome. Now, you had mentioned, and this is something again that I definitely love, and it kind of piggybacks a little bit on what we were just talking about, is embracing the freedom to explore your duty station to the fullest.
Oh,
And you said
yes. Mhm.
homeschooling is an amazing opportunity to see and explore things off the beaten path while you are there, and to just be able to enjoy that, right? Field trip, you
Mhm.
said, is my middle name,
Oh, yeah.
and I've discovered a love of history through it. I again, oh gosh, we if we lived down the street, we would be in trouble. I just already
Uh-huh.
know it because
Yes.
Field Trip is my middle name, and often as we moved around and I've been in leadership and I've started and I have founded and led military homeschool support groups for years. I'm president now here at Belvoir Home Educators in Northern Virginia. And but
Mhm.
prior and in other situations, I've also worn that field trip hat, and I remember specifically also living overseas in Naples, Italy, where, of course, you just want to go, go, go because it's like, who doesn't want to go see who doesn't want to climb Mount Vesuvius and see, who doesn't want to go to Germany and do all these things, right? So we did them and we did
Yes.
them as much as we could. And so there were those who felt a little inhibited and didn't
Mhm.
quite understand how to embrace it. particularly I think even here in this Northern Virginia area, very near Washington, D.C., and all there is to see that's for free. Going into Washington, D.C. can be a little bit scary for some who aren't used to that. But if you can push through and appreciate where God has planted you and your military
Mhm.
homeschooling family, there's so much to see. So let's talk a little bit about that, about exploring your duty station and enjoying and embracing that freedom.
Yes, I have to find another name for field trip because we're at the point now where my kids are like, we're going on a field trip again.
Yes, right. I
I
know.
mean, it's
Change
a
the
learning
name, right?
experience. Yes, we're going
Right.
out for ice cream. We just might stop at a historical spot on the way, right?
Right.
But yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and this is really just an offshoot of homeschooling in general, is being able to go out and explore. But what's really cool about the military experience is because we live in so many different places, we get to experience so many different things that the budget might not allow for, if we were in the same place for 20 years of a homeschooling career or homeschooling family life,
That's a good
you
point.
know.
Yes.
And so it's really great that we've gotten to go so many places and
Mhm.
and just embrace the opportunity. I mean, and like you said, Natalie, everywhere we go, I end up in field trip leadership of some sort. And I think it's because, you know, one, I can't help myself.
Right, I know, right,
And
right. You gotta sit on your
two,
hands, right?
right. When you're new to an area, quite often I have found that people who are native to an area do not explore quite as much as people who are new, and it's exciting for us, right? And so
Exactly.
not only is it beneficial and edifying to our homeschool and our lives to
Yeah,
explore the people and the histories and the happenings of a place, but
yeah,
also it's a gift back to the community when we're able to
yeah.
invite others along on that journey with us.
Very much so. Very much so. I love that.
Yeah.
I am I grew up in the Washington D.C. area, and while I wasn't homeschooled, so there were the random field trips, and um so I know the area, but moving all over the world and coming back to live in this area, I have looked at Washington D.C. specifically in a totally different, like, light, and I go downtown to DC, and I'm thinking, "Wow, wow, wow, look at this, look at the monument, look at that," in ways that I just would
Right.
just pass by, and so now my kids, like you said, like, I need another name because we even, like, we just go and explore as much as we can, and, um it's been such a real blessing, though, in so many ways, like, in the travel also all over the world has been really awesome. Our kids when we moved, it was interesting, we were in Southern Italy, and we moved back to the States, and we moved to Eastern North Carolina, and, no offense to those who are in Eastern North Carolina, I grew to love it, but it was a very big change from being in Europe to Eastern
Sure.
North Carolina, and the
Sure.
pace, the everything, and so our kids were, "Where have we come?" But they learned how to navigate that area and appreciate the beauty of what is in Eastern North Carolina, and so I think that the more that they have been exposed in travel, the more that they're able to embrace it, and so it's been a blessing, and so I definitely, again, totally see what you're saying with that, so
Right, and you find the treasures of a place,
you do,
when you
you
go
do.
out and explore, and all it takes is just a little bit of intentionality, and you can find the treasures of a place. Last year,
Definitely.
during COVID lockdowns, of course, well, not so much during the lockdown, but but as things still weren't really open last year, one of our homeschool groups locally, we were trying to figure out how do we connect, and so me
Yeah,
being new to Hampton Roads and
right.
lover of history, I thought, well, wow, there's so much to see around here. Why don't we just do asynchronous walking tours? And we'll set them up, and each
Nice,
month
wow.
we'll say, hey, families, we suggest going and checking out Fort Monroe, or we suggest going and checking out this driving tour over here, or go up to Jamestown. And there's so much that is outdoors that you can do and see. you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
is still, educational for the kids, and a chance for us to get out and really explore what the area has to offer as well.
Yes, there.
So,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Definitely. I appreciate
and
that.
I think we talked a little bit, Natalie, about being placed somewhere for a purpose,
Right.
and that this
Yes.
is this is really, part of that as well.
Mhm.
As what
Mhm.
does God have for us in this place, for us to learn, and for us to do, here as well, as
Mhm.
we're on
Mhm.
assignment from Him in everything that we do.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. On assignment. I love it. I love it. So, and that transitions really well into the idea about digging deep into the community that you mentioned and how your presence matters and you and your kids and the connections that you need and how you can serve and see that as a blessing. Basically, to
Right,
thrive where God has placed you purposefully. All right. And you
right.
mentioned you have an impact to make, and you reference your church family has been our
Mhm.
lifeline everywhere that we have lived. So let's talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, yeah. For us, I mean, we some duty stations are easier to connect than others. That is
Yes,
just a fact of it,
yes,
And
yes,
but every duty station that we go to is still one where God has something for us there, you know.
yes,
And
yes.
and no matter what, we have always found community in the places that we've gone, and found opportunities for our lives to have impact and to be impacted in that space. And so
Mhm.
whether it's getting involved with co-ops and classes, or meeting a friend with skills that can help our homeschool, or giving of our own skills and resources to help
Mhm.
the community around us,
Mhm.
regardless, those are all opportunities provided by Him for us.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
sometimes it is looked, as involved as being an emergency care plan for another military family, who might
Right.
need someone to watch their kids when they're away, or
Exactly.
it sometimes looks like just simply making a meal for a neighbor, or being a listening ear, you know.
Yes. And
But go ahead.
I was going to say, and you touched on something that I really see is that military families, we are resilient and we come together to support each other. And so, like you said, that opportunity to bless another family, to take a meal, the new baby, spouse is deployed and mom's got other kids and she's gone into labor and doesn't have family around.
Hmm.
Oh gosh, I remember when we moved to Camp Pendleton, California, and my husband was already there, and it was right after 9/11, and it was at the time I was expecting our 4th child, and I was pretty far along in the pregnancy. Shouldn't have been flying, but I trusted God with that, and that was a deliberate prayer, not just, "Oh, I trust God." I really prayed because I know sometimes God
Yeah.
will say, "Stay where you are and have the baby
Yes,
there." But
ma'am.
I really did. Yeah, I did really trust, and because we really wanted to join, and I felt God trust, he that was what He led us to. But fast forward to what I want to say is that we got there, and a few weeks later, maybe 2 weeks later, with boxes all around because my husband, we got there, he was working. He
Right.
was he had services to conduct, counseling to do. It was right after 9/11, so there was high tension and high, workup for possible military action. And I couldn't get to all the boxes, and I had little kids, 9. I had 3 at the time, 9, 7, and 4, and then I was expecting our
Hmm.
4. So we know about that, boxes all around. But what I'm saying is how the military community supports each other is that somewhere in the process, my husband met a dear, dear lady who connected to, like, at a social event. And when I went into labor with our 4th child a little early, um, we all ended up having to go to the hospital because you got kids 9, 7, and
Right.
or you can't leave them at home,
No.
right? So we all go to the hospital, right? And they're not in school; they're with us, so we
Right.
all went.
Right.
And and my husband's like, "Oh gosh, who can I call? I don't know. I don't know anybody." Well, one thing we know is within the military community, we support each other. And he called this lady, and she came. Her kids were grown, and Miss Sarah became like a grandmother for those years that we were there at Camp Pendleton, because we continued the relationship with her. But she stepped in and came and took them and bought art supplies and all kinds of things, got them food, because what turned out to be what we thought would be a normal delivery turned into an emergency C-section.
Oh,
But
yeah.
she actually was such a blessing. And so, like you said, God places you purposely places, and he has missions for you. And within the military community, we definitely appreciate each other for being available to help in so many times of need. So yeah,
Yes.
I definitely understand that. And so the other thing I want to mention is that you said about taking advantage of the standard military resources. This is something I'm always preaching about, right?
Hmm.
Like, and viewing them through the lens of homeschooling. For example, our installation libraries, MWR, which is morale, welfare, and recreation. Local travel, right? Space A. Oh, Space A. I wish one day they would allow spouses to fly separate.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
ready to go to Congress on that one.
Wouldn't that be
So,
nice? Yeah.
wouldn't that be nice, right? But like you said, you mentioned that trip to Hawaii that you and the kids took while your hubby was in Iraq. And when that unfortunately that he was deployed to Iraq and all
Right.
of what that entailed, but you were able to utilize that time and take advantage of Space A. So tell me a little
Right.
bit about.
Right. Right. And so, just making the most of it, right? Because there are tough seasons, in
Yeah.
military life, right? And it's like, okay, so we have this opportunity, we can use this resource, Space A. At the time, my best friend was stationed in Hawaii, and we were at Fort Lewis, and I thought,
Okay.
well, I'm never going to get over there, otherwise.
Right.
And so, and so the kids and I remember I took them into Target at like 9 o'clock at night in their pajamas to get all the
Yeah.
things we needed, because we had to report for our flight at 3 or 4 in the
Oh,
morning.
oh, dark 30. Oh,
Yes,
dark 30, right?
yes. And so, but what an amazing experience. I mean, we ended up spending 10 days over there. That was really good for us, as a family, just, being with one of my heart sisters, for
Right. I
starters. And
understand.
then even beyond that, we got to spend a couple days at the Polynesian Cultural Center. We got
Mm,
to, go around and just explore all that this new place had to offer. I mean, really, it's almost an extension of make the most of your duty station, right? Just
right.
making the most of the resources that the military offers to us. Very often the libraries will have passes that you can check out to go to local museums. The little libraries on post, right? You'll
Yeah.
also have MWR, and quite often they'll plan day trips. And if you're
Yeah.
not up for driving on your own to different places that you've never been before, because I know that's the case for a lot of us, right?
Yes,
You can
exactly.
hop on a bus tour through MWR, and go
Yes.
and explore something that you might not have otherwise gone to see.
So true, so true.
Yeah.
I remember, I wanted to shout out the USO,
Yes.
and how impactful that has been, especially as we lived overseas. They have some fabulous trips, and so I actually love them. And even recently, one of the military benefits of that, I was traveling actually to the National Leaders Conference for HSLDA, and there was a USO at the airport, and I was like, "Oh, I can go in, show my ID, and there's
Hmm.
snacks and all kinds of things." And so, um, just taking advantage of those resources is really key. And we know within the military that if resources are not utilized, they tend to go away, right?
Right.
Because that
Right.
money will be reallocated as it should be. I'm not against that, but I know I am more of an advocate to utilize the resources that are provided for us on installation. So I think that's awesome. And Space A, for those who may not be military, is space available. And maybe we'll do another segment at some point on that and everything. And But yeah, so let's transition because I know our time is coming
Hmm.
close. Important about understanding the laws of your state and the resources available when you arrive.
Right.
You said that you have homeschooled in just 3 states, but all with very different laws and access to public resources. I see a question about PCSing and what resources and documentation in the comments there that was earlier. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, Heather, in terms of understanding the laws and of the states.
Right. Well, I don't want to speak to any of the specific laws, but I will say that
Right.
HSLDA is a wonderful resource to be able to find out what the laws are in your particular state. And if you reach out to them, they'll help you navigate that transition as well,
Mhm.
as you go from one state to the next. Quite often we move in the summertime when some states require proof of progress and understanding what is required on one end and what you'll need to do when you get to the other side is really
Mhm.
very important. And it can be confusing to navigate depending on what
Mhm.
time of year you're moving. And so really the point there is just to make sure that you seek out that information so that you can stay in legal compliance as a homeschooler wherever you are in your journey.
Mhm. Exactly, exactly. Yeah. And so definitely our lawyers are available to provide that information. Our website has information for all of the states. And so that is accessible for you to understand that. And that's a common question military homeschoolers have. I anticipate and am hopeful that a future military Facebook Live will be with one of our attorneys and we will talk about unpack that a little bit just to give clarity, but everything is available on the website. And as members, you have access to our lawyers to ask specific questions about your particular situation. They understand that we travel and move quite often, and so they are available for answering those questions definitely. Um, Now I want to laugh. I'm laughing about this because you said that you said we are an army family that moved 9 times in 15 years, right? And we know, like, those questions say, how many times have you moved? How many times have you moved,
Yes.
right? And the duty stations just go, and all our kids are like, okay, well, where are you? Someone said, where are you from?
Oh.
Um, like, where? Well, and when was he born? Well, we were in. Let me see. We were in Fort Lewis.
Mhm.
We were at Camp Pendleton. So, but you recently retired to Hampton Roads, which we lived there for almost 7 years and loved the Hampton Roads Tidewater area. And you said you have discovered hilariously how that kind of mobility is foreign to most of our Navy counterparts. And I was laughingly joking when I saw it. I said,
Yes.
don't go with the Army Navy rivalry. Because we do move a lot too, but Army, you all move quite a bit.
Right,
So
right. That's what I
yeah,
heard, but I haven't seen it
yeah,
yet. But yeah.
yeah, you haven't seen it yet. I
No,
know.
that's not true.
The interesting thing is Hampton Roads can be an area where people get almost like this DC area. There's
Right.
so many duty stations that you can pretty much like we were at Hampton Roads almost 7 years. My husband was on the Truman, on the aircraft carrier, the Truman. And
Hmm.
then he was base chaplain at Little Creek Fort Story.
Oh,
And then
wow.
he did a practicum at Portsmouth and the VA. So, so we didn't move. We did not move. And all the time I'm thinking, what? That was 2 more moves that I lost out on. 2 more places I didn't get to move to
Really?
see and to explore the history. But we love the Hampton Roads area, so it was a blessing, and we made the best of it as military families do, right? But so talk a little bit about that, though, how the moving and all, how that has
Yes.
just been an experience.
Yes. So since we started homeschooling 8 years ago, we have PCSed 3 times and had 2 more children and had 2 years where my husband was away for a year-long assignment. I feel like that almost adds up to 8. Like
Yes, yes, I'll say it's
every
8.
year,
Yes,
yes, every year we're going through some sort of major life transition, you know.
yes,
And what's interesting though is, Army or Navy, moving or not, whatever service you're a part of, there are all kinds of transition. It just looks different,
Mhm.
for depending on the service member's job. My husband happened to be in a job where he was working very long hours,
Mhm.
consistently throughout his career. When he was home, he wasn't really home all that much
Wasn't really
anyway,
home. I know.
you
I
know.
understand.
Um, but it is funny, when we moved to Hampton Roads. This is like an amazing thing that God did when we bought our house that we live in now. We have a homeschooling family with 5 kids that lives 3 doors that way, and a homeschooling family with 5 kids that lives 3 doors the other way as
That is crazy.
well.
How awesome.
Yes. And so it's amazing, but their experience, so I thought, moving here, oh, we're an Army family, we're in kind of a Navy area, there'll be some
Right.
commonality, but all the rest of the kids, they don't remember anywhere but Hampton Roads,
Got
and
it.
that
Got it.
might just be by virtue of the age of the
Maybe.
kids, but they
Mhm.
but they all get what it's like to feel that uncertainty, because
Yeah.
sometimes, their experience has been, are we going to move or are we not going to move? And that's a
Right.
different kind of
Right.
difficulty. Or,
Right.
or
Right.
dad or mom is away, and
Right.
um, still having to deal with those dynamics as well. And so
Right.
we're certainly
Right.
still sisters,
Right. Yes.
regardless of what service we're in. Yeah.
Definitely. All military, we love each other so much and we appreciate um oh, I hear we are remote, so apparently someone is using the printer. So excuse that if you all hear the printer
Oh
action in
no.
the background. That's part of being remote. But yeah, we all love each other and we know that we all serve our country passionately and that it's a lot of sacrifice, but we've chosen to do that. And so we joke amongst ourselves,
Hmm.
Marine, Coast Guard, Air Force, even with Army, Navy and all, but we all love each other very much. And when we go to um situations of of war, we know how important it is to support all of the branches equally, and that we all have an important role to play. So, and on most military installations, especially here in this area, we have so many different branches. Like in the homeschool group that I lead, the Belvoir Home Educators, we're Navy and we have Coast Guard, Army, we have so many. And so we just roll with it because ultimately, we're military homeschoolers and that's what anchors us. And so we understand the life, the journey.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
it's different. Yeah. So let's take some time to go over any of the questions that parents have for us in the comments. And let's take a look and see what we have here. If we have any comments at all. Let's see. I appreciate you all joining us. We plan to roll out more of these Facebook Lives, and uh, there's a webinar coming up on the 21st, 9 tips for successful military homeschooling. So look for that webinar Q&A on October 21st. Let me see
Great.
here. I see Barbara has joined us. Hey, Barbara, how are you? Dr. Douglas Petersma. Okay, he says faith formation. Let me get it here moved up. Faith formation. Discipleship spiritual growth is the central focus of our homeschooling and parenting, which are
Yes.
two inextricably linked concepts. Exactly. All other benefits of homeschooling, and there are many, are secondary to this.
Yeah.
Definitely. Totally
Yeah.
agree. Totally
What's cool,
agree.
I think what's really cool about that comment as well, is that we're not talking at all about curriculum or about budgets or about homeschool spaces or any of that, right? There's plenty of resources out there to talk about the nuts and bolts of it. What we're talking about is how we do life together, and how our lives as Christ followers are reflected in our homeschool experience. So thank you so
So
much
true.
for that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that was very, very on point what he said. And Paula says, "Oh, I think I heard Natalie share on a radio station that made me excited again about homeschooling with grandkids." Oh, that's awesome. I
Great.
did, I don't even remember. I'm speaking a lot lately, so but definitely, Paula, I'm excited that that encouraged you to about homeschooling with grandkids. That's a phenomenon that is increasing. We shout out to the grandparents who are taking that on. I know that you'll be a blessing to your grandkids, and so definitely reach out here to HSLDA. We can support you. I'm also a high school educational consultant, but we have consultants from kindergarten all the way up, special needs as well. So anything we can do to support you. Barbara says, I read the article in the old schoolhouse about being a caregiver and a homeschooler. It was wonderful. Okay, you're talking about that article I wrote. Yes, we didn't
Yes.
even unpack that. That's a whole nother thing about the number of homeschoolers who are also becoming caregivers of senior loved ones or are having
Mhm.
to make plans about potentially bringing a senior loved one into their home. And how in the world do you continue homeschooling? I tell you, it's crazy, but it gets done. And so that's what Barbara's referencing an article that I wrote in the old schoolhouse. So let me see. Ashley Miller says, I'm homeschooling early elementary right now in Virginia. I imagine that we will move to another state at some point. Are there any special records that need kept or tips you think help the transition to new states? We did a Facebook Live on relocation in military homeschooling. It was the first one. This is our second live, Facebook Live for military, but the first one is available to be taken a look at. The special records that need to be kept or tips. You have anything you want to add to it, Heather? Any tips or anything? Or
So this question touches my heart because we started homeschooling early elementary in Virginia too, and then subsequently moved to Washington State, and then to Maryland, and now back here to Virginia as well. I think that everyone's answer might be a little bit different to that, so definitely
yeah.
go check out the relocation talk that they did previously. But for us, one of the things that I did, knowing that we were going to have our eyes to Virginia and knowing that the requirements in Virginia included doing an annual exam, for proof of progress, is that we continued doing that every year, regardless of where we lived, because we kind of had an idea of where we wanted to land at the end of it. And so whatever requirements we encountered, we have basically maintained records to whatever the highest standard has been for ourselves, not for the district, but that has helped with the transition for us as a family. But I know other people choose different ways to navigate that as well.
Right, but that's good. I'm sure that's helpful to Ashley. Thanks, Heather.
Mm-hmm.
I see Shalita McDonald. Hi from Illinois. Hello, Shalita. Thanks for
Hi,
joining us. And I see someone that seems to know you, Melissa Trainer Holmes.
that's my
She says,
mama. Hi,
okay,
mom.
oh, yay. She says, my respect for military families grew so much from watching Heather and her family through this process. I had no idea as a quote outsider what it was like. I'm glad she chose homeschooling for all it has given the children. What a blessing. What a blessing. We love to hear when grandparents say, yes, you chose homeschooling, right? So my mom's a
Yes.
big supporter too, but it was a new journey for them also, right?
Oh, for
For our
sure.
parents,
For sure.
trusting that we kind of knew what we were doing and not going to ruin their grandbabies,
Or
right?
at least supporting us, right?
Exactly, right. Yes,
Yeah.
that's so awesome. Karen says, hi from Kansas. Two graduated and one in eighth grade. How awesome. Kudos to you. Graduated too. So I know you are a resource, Karen, in your community.
Yes.
Um,
I'm thinking
watching
she's
from
my
Maryland.
hero, just like you. Y'all are my
Yeah.
heroes. It's because I haven't
Hey,
graduated any yet, so I'm watching you. Thank you.
yeah, you're on your way, Heather.
Yes.
Watching from Maryland, Nancy says at Fort Detrick area. Okay, welcome to Fort Detrick. Thank you for enabling closed captioning to be accessible to all. Yes,
Yes.
yes. Aloha and good morning from Hawaii, Daisy. Good morning. Welcome. I'm so glad. It's nice to see how far this has reached. That's awesome. And Daisy also says, we love our extended military family. God always provided amazing people in our lives during our service in the military. I know that's perfect. The extended
Yes.
military family.
Yes.
Those people who made a difference in your time when you were at a particular duty station the community members, the church members, whatever interactions you had, those are the extended military. And, it's amazing how we're able to still keep those relationships even as we relocate other places. I
Yes.
know so many people that mean so much to me that I consider extended military family, not blood
Mhm.
family, but I've welcomed them because they have welcomed us into their homes. And I'm appreciative of them. So, Daisy, you're right. So right. And Barbara Thompson says hello. And then Ashley, okay, she responded, great. Thanks to your comment,
Good.
Heather. Yeah,
Good.
definitely. So I don't know. I don't see any other questions, but again, I appreciate everyone popping on. I wanted to see if Heather, if you have any final words of that you want to share, anything that we didn't cover. I know we talked and I feel like we had a great conversation, but if you
Yeah.
have anything that you want to share.
Just thank you very much to you for
Oh,
inviting me to come and chat with you, and also just encouragement, to the families who, there's a lot of people who are transitioning into homeschooling for the first time, at this point. So just be
yes,
encouraged that it is something that you can do. It is something that you can do well and can be a huge blessing through your military journey. And
yes,
so I just encourage you to give it a shot. Absolutely.
yes, definitely. Encouragement, we can never have too much
Yeah.
encouragement. So, well, this is definitely a topic that we could just keep talking about. And we branched into a few other areas that we realized that we could keep talking about. So, Heather, thank you so much for joining the conversation. And I hope it was an encouragement for all those that are listening. I see one last question pop up, and then we'll bring it to a close. Where's the best place to access military support for homeschooling when you PCS? School liaison, Facebook groups, what have you found? Kristen, we're unpacking a lot of resources here at HSLDA for military homeschoolers. So definitely like and follow the HSLDA Military Families page. Also, yes, when you PCS, the school liaison officers, we are trying to interact with them to make sure that they have the best practices and resources from us. So I would definitely contact the school liaison. Of course, social media is what it is, and it's popular, and most homeschool groups have a presence on social media on Facebook. So definitely, and as you know, get involved with a spouses group at that next duty station and ask anybody homeschool.
Yeah.
Everybody that does will. The people that see that post at homeschool will say, we do, and ask questions that way as well. If you Sherry Payne says, if you move into hi Sherry, by the way,
Hi,
if you move
Sherry.
into or out of Virginia, I'm happy to help. She's the Director of Military Support for Home Educators Association of Virginia, HEAV. Sherry Payne is an awesome resource for those in Virginia, so definitely
Yes.
contact her as well. Okay. Thank you all so much. So, as military families, we face unique challenges, right? And we can feel disconnected and forgotten. Here at HSLDA, we're working hard to develop resources that will help you find connection and encouragement, such as this Facebook Live today. HSLDA maintains a growing list of homeschool groups that you can search for overseas military support groups and state and local support groups here in the U.S. So we'll post the link to that resource in the comments for you. If you are a leader of a military homeschool support group, please contact me directly at military@hslda.org. Military@hslda.org. I would love to get more of your military groups, more of our military groups listed. There's lots of benefits provided by HSLDA 2 and 4 groups. So please contact me. Also, HSLDA members have access to a great legal team, which we mentioned earlier, and fantastic educational consultants. I'm one of them. There's a whole staff of awesome consultants available to members that can help military families just like ours through questions and challenges that may come up as you're moving around homeschooling here in CONUS or OCONUS. All right. So if you're not already a member of HSLDA, we would love for you to join us. Find out more at hslda.org/join, JOIN. That's hslda.org/join. hsldA.org/join. Thanks again, Heather, and everyone else for joining us. You all, this has been a blessed time, and look for the webinar coming up on October 21st. And again, reach out to me at military@hsLDA.org if you have any questions or if you are a support group. I would love to speak with you. And if you are a school liaison officer as well. So I appreciate you, Heather. Thank you so much. It's
Thank
been a joy.
you.
Thank you all. Okay, everyone, have a wonderful day.